Hey guys, and a big welcome back to the channel. It's TheSketchMonkey here. Now, Jeep has just unveiled their Grand Cherokee L, and L stands for longer, larger than your traditional Grand Cherokee that we're used to. And this makes me happy in one way and a little confused in another. I'm going to talk more about that in detail in just a second here. Now, the new 3-row Grand Cherokee will seemingly be sold alongside the current 2-row 2021 model, and it's an important one for Jeep because they sold 210,000 Grand Cherokees in just 2020. And the current platform has been around since 2011, so a decade now. So this update is not a day too early. The new Grand Cherokee L is a lot larger on pretty much all accounts when it comes to the size of this vehicle. The total length of it is 205 inches, and that is compared to 190 inches for the Grand Cherokee. It's also 1.4 inches wider. However, under the hood, you're not going to find any surprises. You're going to be familiar with most things you find under the hood of the Grand Cherokee L. It's powered by the 3.6 liter V6 engine from last year, producing 290 horsepower and 257 pound-feet of torque. However, you still have the optional 5.7 liter Hemi V8 as an option, and this is for the Overland and the Summit models, and this will bump up the power to 357 horsepower and 390 pound-feet of torque. So quite a bump from the 290 horsepower up to 360 almost. So I would definitely go for the V8 if this was my choice. All versions come with a standard 8-speed automatic transmission, and standard is also 2-wheel drive. However, you can obviously option for 4-wheel drive if you want to. On the inside, this is where the most surprises will come when you look at the new Jeep Cherokee L here, and it's a pleasant surprise, specifically if you look at the integration of the center console and the touchscreen, which is 8.4 or an optional 10.1 inch, the touchscreen in the middle with the latest Uconnect 5 infotainment system. But I want to talk about the integration of this large display into the center console of this car, because I made a couple of videos back talking about the 5 design trends that need to stop, and one of them was the interior design and the iPads that they just stick onto and otherwise beautiful organic looking interior on modern cars, and then it looks like they just stick an iPad on top of that somewhere, just fit it there and don't really bother integrating it beautifully in the interior. But Jeep here has really done a good job with integrating it. It looks almost like a beautiful waterfall from the vent. So this to me is a very good example of how you can actually make the larger screens that we have in cars now, make them be a part of the interior in a more beautiful way than we're used to. And this system also offers Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The instrument cluster is also now a fully digital display. It's a 10.3 inch, which is fully customizable and includes awesome features such as adaptive cruise control, traffic sign detection, and even some awesome night vision is an option for this new Grand Cherokee L. And it's expected to go on sale early this summer, but there's no really official pricing details yet. However, the unchanged 2-row Grand Cherokee starts at $37,765. So if you add another row on the interior, you might expect it to be around maybe $40,000 when the Grand Cherokee L goes on sale later this year. But now let's talk about the design and the styling of the new Grand Cherokee L. And I just want to show you the connection it has to the Grand Wagoneer, and this is why I'm so confused, because now that Jeep has a 7-seater, I guess 8 maybe, well, at least 3-row Grand Cherokee L, how are they going to market the Grand Wagoneer when that goes on sale? Because the Grand Cherokee L kind of fits the segment which I would think the Grand Wagoneer people would like to fit into. It has the 3 rows, it's larger, it has a different styling than the regular Grand Cherokee as well, And if we look at the two here and compare them, the face of the cars, we can see that the Grand Cherokee L is almost like the production version of the Grand Wagoneer concept. You have the beautiful integrated graphics, which is very Jeep, like hammering in the Jeep DNA in the front of the car. And that, I've said this before so many times, that a lot of car manufacturers are doing this now. We're dialing back on the overstyling of the car. You see, just look at the side of the car right here and compare it to the regular Grand Cherokee that we have right now. We have a lot of creases going in the regular one, but for the 2021 L model, all of that is gone. We have a strict, nice shoulder line going right here into the corner of the light. And this is what I love about the new design here of the Grand Cherokee L, is that it is more of a squarish design, which I'm always a fan of, especially when it comes to SUVs, because I think that's the whole point of getting an SUV, is to get as much space out of it as possible, and at the same time have it be this elegant shape. And the more squarish, to me, the more elegant the design becomes. And it's almost more architectural and less car design, if that makes sense. It's like a building with the identity of the brand slapped onto the front of the building. In this case, the 7 slots for the Jeep grille there, for example, which instantly makes this recognizable as a Jeep. So the front is fantastic to me. It looks, as I said, as a production version of the Grand Wagoneer down there. I love both of these. What's missing in the Grand Cherokee L is, of course, the light bar that stretches across the front face of the Grand Wagoneer, but we don't have that here. Instead, we have these tiny slots or strips of LED right above the headlights, which is another detail that I really like on the new Grand Cherokee L, because it doesn't have the same thickness on the strip going across the entire width. So if you go in, let's say 2/3 of the length of the LED, it becomes a little wider in this part the narrower you come to the grille. But it's such a tiny little change that you kind of wonder if it's intentional or not. Regardless, it makes for a great detail to talk about when you look at the details of the front of the car. Moving to the side of the car here, if you look at the car straight from a side view, it reminds me, it has some sort of Range Rover Lincoln Aviator feel to it, and that has to do, all of that has to do with the sloping roof line that goes down right here. So this is the biggest change, especially if you look at it from the rear. This is the biggest change compared to the Wagoneer. The Wagoneer is basically a box in the rear. It's just a squarish finish on the design, and it doesn't slope at all on the roofline. And I like that. It makes it look, if you, by modern terms, it makes it look a little bit minivan-y, for example, but that's not a bad thing because it's a Grand Wagoneer. So it's supposed to look like the original Grand Wagoneer. And back then, we didn't do things to the SUVs such as cutting the roofline and make it into a slope like this. We wanted function over styling back then, and a sloping roofline didn't really matter. So I really liked that they implemented that and went against the trends of having a sloping roofline on every single SUV, and instead kept the inspiration from the original Grand Wagoneer to keep it boxy like this. And I've made an entire video on this concept. If you want to go check that out, I might link it down below in the description. But anyway, this is the biggest change, the biggest differences when you look at this car from the rear view. It's like the taillights of the new Grand Cherokee L. It's almost like an evolution of the current lights. And this is also another trend that we're seeing, that a lot of car companies want to squish the lights. They want to have a lot more bars, simple graphics, and as I said, focus on the details that matters when it comes to identifying what type of brand it is. That's what's more important. The other details of the car and the proportions are less important moving forward, and especially overstyling with adding a bunch of lines onto the car is just going away now. Another thing here in the rear that's missing from the Grand Wagoneer is that they actually did not, can you believe it? They did not make a full light bar here, which is also one of these trends that pretty much every car company makes today. But I'm glad they didn't do it. It's like, I have a feeling that the Grand Cherokee L is almost like a base model of the Grand Wagoneer. I think the Grand Wagoneer is going to be a more upscale, luxury version of the Grand Cherokee L, and of course the rear end is going to look completely different proportionally and graphically from the Grand Wagoneer L. That's the only kind of argument that I have on how they will be able to market the Grand Wagoneer now that we have the Grand Cherokee L with 3 rows, since that was the whole point of the Grand Wagoneer, is to make a bigger Grand Cherokee, I guess. So this is a little bit confusing, but at the same time I'm glad they did it, because I think the new Cherokee L here, it looks great. It's a good design, it's a clean design, and you see this little trim chrome line that goes right here. This is also a nice touch from the Jeep Compass, where they have this line as well, and it kind of adds some organic feeling to an otherwise very solid and structured boxy shape. So it's just a detail that breaks that up in a beautiful way. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about the Grand Cherokee L. Are you a fan of this new, bigger design? It's definitely bigger visually than the Grand Cherokee. And does it make sense that they are releasing a Grand Wagoneer now after they just dropped the Grand Cherokee L? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It really means a lot to me. Thanks again. Take care, and I will see you in the next video.